shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. V'ha'amidenu, Shomrenu lechaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukat shlomecha. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom.
Can we do that section again?
Hashkivenu,
Hashkivenu,
Adonai Eloheinu.
Eloheinu,
Hashkivenu,
Leshalom.
Hashkivenu,
And
Adonai
understanding among us. Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Lovely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. We have about 2 minutes. Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon Mimelech, Malachei Hamelachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon Mimelech, Malachei Hamelachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei Hamelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon Melech Malachei Hamelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Lechu neranenai, lai 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 lai, l'Adonai, lai 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 lai, nari lai 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 lai, letzor yishenu, lai 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 lai. Let us sing out to God, the maker of all, sure and strong. Let all of creation from mountain to sea hear our song. Lechu neranena, yai dai 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 dai, l'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, Naria, yai dai 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 dai, Letzor yishenu, yai dai 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 dai. For all of the wonder in all of God's light, we rejoice. So now let us listen with all of our hearts to hear God's voice. Lechu neranena, yai dai 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 dai, l'Adonai, yai dai 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 dai, letzor yishenu, yai dai 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 dai, letzor yishenu. die, die, da, die, die. Yai, die, die, da, die, die. Yai, die, die, da, die, die.
On Shabbat, we come together to celebrate the joy of life and living and the importance of being in holy community with one another. And one of the great ways in which we can do that is by bestowing blessings on one another at times of great simchas and celebrations. So it's with that in mind that I'd like to call up Maxine and Neil Scribner as we celebrate a very special 50th anniversary blessing together before the Ark. Just like at your wedding 50 years ago. Not much has changed since then. Just one or two things. One or two things. There's a quote from the Talmud that reads, "If the couple is worthy, the divine presence abides with them." O God, eternal source of blessing, we turn to you in gratitude for the strength and devotion that has preserved and sustained Maxine and Neil and permitted them to reach this hour in the midst of family online and friends and loved ones in the congregation. I know you want to give them away. You look back upon the years that have passed since they first pledged themselves to one another. Many and varied have been their experiences since that day. Many have been the mingled occasions of victory and defeat, of fulfillment and disappointment. You recall the joys that graced their days with light and beauty. You also remember the dark storms that shook them. In joys and trials alike, O God, you have been with them. So may you continue to be with them, guiding and sustaining them in the years to come. Neil and Maxine, may God bless you with health and contentment in the circle of your family and all your loved ones, near and far. As together we say, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'tigianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of all, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach this moment. When the temple was destroyed, our homes became the temple in miniature, and our tables became the replacement for the altar. When we create a home with a spouse, or we invite God to dwell among us, as you celebrate this 50th anniversary of your marriage, you mark the passage of time since first creating a holy sanctuary together. On this day of your anniversary, or weekend thereof, we pray that God will continue to dwell in your home and in your hearts. May you continue to be blessed with a strong love that allows you to endure life's challenges and to celebrate life's joys. As we say, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov.
Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov,
Mazel tov, mazel tov, siman tov, siman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov. Yehelanu.
Shabbat Shalom. My name is Ina Horn, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Anshe Emeth Memorial Temple. Shabbat is the perfect time to take notice of the wonders around us, a time to recognize what is important, celebrate, and be together in the ways that are best for each of us. Tomorrow morning, Jihad Miladnik will be called to the Torah to celebrate becoming a bat mitzvah. So it is now our pleasure to invite Jahan and her parents, Sarah and Dan, and her sister Mira, to join us on the bima to light the Shabbat candles and to lead us in the blessings, which may be found on pages 2 and 3 of your prayer book. Mazel tov to Jahan and her entire family. Shabbat shalom. What, Jahan? Oh, she should read this first. Okay, so you read.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'havek ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Lachadodi on page 20 and 21.
Lecha dodi likra kala yaradai 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likra kala yaradai 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 penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor vezachor bedibor echad Hishmi'anu el hameyuchad Adonai echad Ushemo echad L'shem ultiferet velitehila Lecha dodi likrat kala yaradai 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 Penei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrat kala yaradai 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 Penei Shabbat nekabela Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki mekor haberacha Meirosh mikerem nesucha Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila Lecha dodi likrat kala yaradai 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 Penei Shabbat nekabela Lecha dodi likrat kala yaradai 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 Penei Shabbat nekabela Mikdash melech hir melucha Kumitzei mitoch hafecha Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha Behu yachamol alaychem la Lecha dodi likrat kala yaradai 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 Penei Shabbat nekabela לך דודי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך בי, על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קרבה אל נפשי גאלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, ירדאי, 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 פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי בך יחסו. אני עמי ונבנתה עיר אל תילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו, כל מבלייך יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתן על כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תעריצי על יד איש. בן פרצי ונשמחה ונגילה. היי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה,
We rise in either body or spirit.
שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה, ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Shabbat Shalom. We continue on page 26 with Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתהלל שמי דקודשה, בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ויאמרו Amen.
We arise in either body or spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 28.
Yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bevaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim, uvitfuna mishane itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et ha'kochavim, b'mishmeroteim be'arkia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, Ma'avdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tziba'ot shemo, El chai v'kayam, Tamid imloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, אותנו לימדת. אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו חיינו באורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, dai. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, dai. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, dai. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, dai. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam, Le'olam Va'ed. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, dai. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, dai. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, ya-da-dai, dai-dai, dai. Yai-da-dai, da-da-da-dai, dai. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 dai. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar ba'kodesh. Nora tehilot osei feleh, nora tehilot osei feleh. Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, malchut לך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלי ענו ואמרו, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש. נורא עושה, נורא עושה,
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will.
Standing among us, let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu, Leshalom. Hashkiveinu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkiveinu. Hashkiveinu Adonai Eloheinu Leshalom, Leshalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, וקורא עונג וקורא עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. מקדשי שביעי, כולם יספעו ויתענגו מטובך, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקורא עונג וקורא עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו, חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה וראשית. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקורא עונג וקורא עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. שונאי שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות Umido melach, melech memid umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, vene'eman ata le'achayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai, mechaye hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukedoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
We continue with our private Amidah, either with the words on the page or the words of our own hearts, through page 63. And when you're ready, you may be seated.
רצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri vegoali. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri vegoali. Yihiyu leratzon Imrei fi, והגיון ליבי לפניך, יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri vegoali. Yihiyu leratzon imrei fi, והגיון ליבי לפניך. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי.
Picture this. You're walking into a room, a pretty big room, a college lecture hall, and you see at the front of the room a professor standing with a small group of undergraduates, talking and laughing after class. The professor tells what must be a particularly funny joke, and one of the laughing students, who is much taller than the petite professor, he clasps a hand to her shoulder and says, "Wow, Professor Snyder, that was a good one." I imagine many of you are cringing just as much as I am, with a gut feeling that something about the scene is wrong. What is it? In our culture, the prerogative for physical touch generally rests with whoever has more power in a relationship. Your boss might pat you on the shoulder, but in all likelihood, you would never initiate that contact with them. When the tall undergrad pats his professor on the shoulder, we can feel how his touch inappropriately undermines her position of power. But not all pats on the shoulder are created equal. This summer, in Shabbat services at camp, I started to tear up during Mourner's Kaddish, remembering a dear friend of mine and realizing it had been 5 years since she died. One of my campers reached up and put an arm around me, hand on my shoulder. Almost the same touch, right? A hand on the shoulder of the more powerful person in the relationship. But one comforts and the other undermines. Context is everything. Physical touch has an incredible power to both uplift and degrade. When we think about Parashat Lech Lecha, we likely think about its opening verses, where God calls to Abram and says, "Go forth from your native land to the land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you." That's the very beginning of chapter 12 of the book of Genesis. By verse 10 of chapter 12, Abram and Sarai, who later on will be renamed Abraham and Sarah, are journeying to Egypt to escape famine, when Abram suggests that Sarai tell the Egyptians that she is his sister, not his wife, so that no one will kill him in order to have her. So she does it. She says she is his sister, and none other than Pharaoh himself brings her into his palace as a wife. There are 3 stories like this in the book of Genesis, where a husband tells a wife to identify as his sister so that things will go well for him. This one, in our parsha, takes place in Egypt with Pharaoh. The next one also involves Abraham and Sarah, after their names have thus been changed, in Gerar, with a king named Avimelech. The third also takes place in Gerar with Avimelech, but its main characters are Isaac and Rebekah. It might not be surprising that the plots of all 3 of these stories turn on a word with the same root, Nun, Gimel, Ayin. Lingoa, Nogea, Nigaim. But though these words share a root, they mean quite different things in each of the 3 stories. In the story of Abraham and Sarah with King Avimelech in Gerar, the king does take Sarah into his house, but we read that God does not let the king touch her, so he's not punished. The verb touch is lingoa, nun, gimel, ayin. In the story with Isaac and Rebekah, Rebekah never even goes into the king's house. Isaac dwells in Gerar, saying that Rebekah is his sister, for fear that one of his neighbors will kill him to marry her. When the king finds out about Isaac's fear, he tells his subjects that anyone who harms, Nogea, Isaac or his wife, shall be put to death. And in our story from this parsha, the one that takes place in Egypt, Sarah does end up a consort in Pharaoh's palace. And as a result, Nigaim fall upon Pharaoh and his house. The Nigaim are plagues. not the plagues on Pharaoh and Egypt like on Passover, but earlier plagues that befall Pharaoh's house because he took Sarai, another man's wife. 3 similar stories, 3 critical moments, resting on the root Nun, Gimel, Ayin. Touch, harm, plague. The core meaning of this root is touch, but the Hebrew language shows a keen awareness that touch can often be dangerous. We've learned more about the ways that touch and proximity can be dangerous over the last 20 months or so. One of the most common words that contains the root nun, gimel, ayin is lehagia. You can't hear the nun, but I promise it's sort of there, which means to approach or arrive. When you approach something, you are ever closer to touching it. In the relatively recent past, many of us have completely changed our approaches to approaching one another. We stay 6 feet apart, cock ahead for permission before coming closer. I, for one, miss the days of just going in for a hug when I see one of my dear friends. For many of those living alone or in a shared space with a certain level of emotional distance, the loss of everyday physical touch has been profoundly painful and a source of ever-deepening loneliness. The poet Marge Piercy writes, "We touch each other so many ways, in curiosity, in anger, to command attention, to soothe, to quiet, to rouse, to cure. Touch is our first language and often our last, as the breath ebbs and a hand closes our eyes." Touch has great power to uplift our lives, and as relational beings, most of us rely on it for support. But there's another side of that coin too. When my friends and I discussed our high holiday experiences this year, and mine here was wonderful, I heard this though over and over again. Everyone said, "Is it harder to connect with people and learn their names with masks on?" Yeah, absolutely. But wow, I'm so grateful to have a reason to keep my distance. It's the first time I've ever led services in person and not felt a hug too tight or too lingering. Silver linings? And it's probably not just women rabbinical and cantorial students feeling this relief. Those of us working remotely and even in socially distant offices now have a perfectly acceptable, one-size-fits-all reason to have some personal space and bodily autonomy. Over the years since the Me Too movement rose to national prominence, I've read think piece after think piece, op-ed after op-ed, tweet after tweet. Can I still hug women in the workplace? Can I still kiss on the cheek in the office? Can I just not touch my colleagues at all? I think a better question is, what are my motivations for touch, and who is this touch benefiting? And if it's benefiting me, like a hug I initiate with a friend after a long and hard day, is it harming its recipient or their status, even subtly? We can explore these questions too through our story of Abram and Sarai in Egypt. We read, "And it went well for Abram on her account. He acquired sheep, oxen, male and female slaves, donkeys, and cattle on her account." Ba'avura. The biblical scholar Susan Nidich argues that the folkloric purpose of these stories is not to impugn the husband for his moral shortcomings, but rather to show a humorous reversal of fate in which the less powerful man gains the upper hand. In all 3 stories, an ordinary man interacts with a king and emerges richer than before in wealth, political alliances, or both. But I struggle to read these stories this way. I struggle to imagine that for Sarai, a traumatizing foray into Pharaoh's harem, complete with the touches that brought on the plagues, was a worthwhile price to pay for her husband's economic gain. Touch can be a trauma, and touch can be a balm. Touch can comfort us, and touch can threaten us. Touch can be an assertion of power, and touch can be a show of solidarity. So as we continue to navigate a more and more vaccinated world, let us not return wholesale to days of old. Let us deepen our attunement with others and with ourselves and ask, am I reaching out a hand to provide comfort or to assert dominance? Am I trying to show that I am beside this person or to prove that I am above her? As we go forth into all the places that God will show us, may our nigiot, our touches and connections, not be for someone negaim, plagues and afflictions. May our touch only uplift. May we have hands to hold when we are scared, hugs of comfort and joy to see one another, and the confidence that should we decline the offer of a hug, we need not worry about repercussions. May we have all this speedily, soon, and in our days. May God's words touch our lips, and may words of Torah touch our hearts. May this be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.
Our Parshat Shavua is Lech Lecha, and I ask if you would join me in the singing of Lechi Lach, page 341. Lechi Lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech Lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi Lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. Lechi Lach. Lechi Lach, and I shall make your name great. Lech Lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi Lach, to a place that I will show you. Lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lechi lach. And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach.
Shabbat Shalom once again. Just a few announcements before we conclude our service. This weekend is the inaugural lecture series of the Rini Reese and Anita Kaplan series on Jewish identity. We will be welcoming in writer Dani Shapiro to talk about her book Inheritance, which is a phenomenal book about, well, I don't want to ruin any of it. So you should read the book and you should come. There's still space to come in person, but in order to watch it online, which is open to the entire congregation, you need to register because it's a closed link because she doesn't want it streamed to the world. So I believe there's still time. As I look at Anne is shaking her head. Thanks you, Anne. Anne has, after a couple of years, have figured out the cues of when to feed me what's available on the website or not while doing announcements. You can still register for the event. When you register, you'll get a YouTube link to a closed YouTube stream. That way you can watch at home, or you could come in person. If you come in person, she is going to be selling books and has signature nameplates to put in it for you. This weekend, we also have Yoga Shalom, which is in person and in Zoom. You can find all the links to that, as well as MAP, Torah study, and all the other things, Intro to Judaism, in your week at Anshe Emeth email. So make sure you look at that. At the conclusion of our service, we're going to come up here for Kiddush and Motzi. And that way those that are at home can join in with us before we say Shabbat Shalom to everybody. There is a very special oneg outside, an oneg to go, sponsored by Jahan's family in honor of her bat mitzvah tomorrow. You ready? Good. Because whether or not you are, it's happening tomorrow. So
She's
make
ready.
sure you
She's
enjoy that oneg as you head on out. On this Shabbat Eve, as we join together as one congregation to celebrate creation, the joy of life and living, we turn our thoughts to those in our community for whom life has become precarious because of health or hospitalization. O God of healing, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers together with the prayers of those who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you place within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and their families. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu hu yivarechet hacholim, refuat hanefesh u'refuat haguf, hashta'a b'ga'ala v'zman kariv v'nomar. Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless those in need of healing. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit as together we say, Amen.
Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu yivarech virapeh et hacholim El narefanala El narefanala El narefanala El narefanala Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu yivarech virapeh et hacholim.
We continue now on page 282 as we rise in either body or spirit for Elenu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד ושמו אחד.
The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades. Its substance is consumed and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our life burns down in gutters. There's an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. With hearts that ache and are saddened, we name now those whom death has recently taken from us, those whose families are observing the Shloshim. We remember Betty Tauber, wife of Jay, mother of Mark and Howard and Lisa, mother-in-law to Becky and Nikki and Skip, grandmother of Ben and Chloe, Sabrina and Ben, Josh, Ethan, Jared, and Aiden. We remember Jake Bayer, husband of Rabbi Maya Glasser, son of Karen and Sean. We remember Steve Rosenbaum, husband of Arlene, father of Laura and Michelle, father-in-law to Ira and Andrew, grandfather of Jared and Ryan, Logan and Evan, and uncle of Mark and Angie, Leah and Josh. We remember Kenny Scharf, son of Rhoda, father of Kelly and Hannah, and cousin of Carl. We remember Marilyn Wheeler, wife of Morris of blessed memory, mother of Adrian and Stephen, mother-in-law to Jeffrey, grandmother of Jennifer and Thomas. And it's also with great sadness that I have to tell you that Bernard Levy, father of Sharon Taxman, passed earlier today. When we have the funeral arrangements and details, we'll send it out to the congregation. On this Shabbat, we also recall those dear ones who died at this season in years past and whose names we record with love in our service booklet this evening. Their names are forever bound to our hearts and are permanently inscribed throughout our building. And if you are here to say Kaddish for a loved one, please say their names as I look around the sanctuary. And if you are joining us online, please either say their names aloud and the one who hears all will hear them, or type their names into the chat, whether on Facebook or YouTube or on our temple website. That way we can lift up the names of your loved ones together. Zikranam livracha. May all their names and memories only be for a blessing. I invite all the mourners, if able, to rise for Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal, V'Kadash, Shmei Rabbah, V'Alma Divrach Rute, V'Amlich Malchute, V'Chayechon, V'Yomechon, V'Chaye Dekol Beit Yisrael, Ba'Galav Isman Kariv V'Yemru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Leolam Lomei Almaya. Yitbarach V'Yishtabach V'Yitba'ar V'Yitromam V'Yitnaseh. V'Yitadar V'Yitaleh V'Yitalal Shemei Dekudesha B'Richu. Le'elam Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata. Tush B'Chata V'Nechamata. Damiran V'Alma V'Yemru Amen. Yehei Shalom Rabbah Min Shemaya. V'Chaim Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael. V'Yemru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Mramav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu V'Al Kol Yisrael. V'Yemru Amen. May the source of peace bestow peace to all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved. As we say, Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'Mramav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'yimeru Amen. We close our service tonight with the singing of Non como nuestro Dios en Kelohenu, found on page 327. Please rise. Ein Kelohenu, ein Kadonenu, ein Kemalkenu, ein Kemoshienu, non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. Mi Eloheinu, mi Adonenu, mi Malkeinu, mi Moshienu, quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Lo haremos a nuestro Dios, lo haremos a nuestro Señor, lo haremos a nuestro Rey, lo haremos a nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Bendicho nuestro Dios, bendicho nuestro Señor, bendicho nuestro Rey, bendicho nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Tú sos nuestro Dios, tú sos nuestro Señor, tú sos nuestro Rey, tú sos nuestro Salvador. ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, וחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחיל לנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תחילה למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
Good answer. And we join with our bat mitzvah for Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Give it a clap.
Good? Okay, you'll get it later. God of rest, thank you for this week that has passed. Thank you for the Shabbat. Let us see others through your eyes with compassion and understanding. Let us see ourselves through your eyes with forgiveness and grace. May your goodness rain down upon us from this Shabbat until the next, all the days of our lives. Shabbat Shalom.